IRS Tax Relief, the industry experts with negotiating with the IRS, with an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Call today and the IRS will be contacted the same day, putting a stop to bank levies and wage garnishments. Call the Fast IRS Tax Relief Hotline at 800-294-8182. 800-294-8182. That's 800-294-8182.
A search for a missing California boy has come to a sad end.
His father was arrested last week for murder, but until now, detectives did not have a body. 5-year-old Aramaz Andressian Jr. went missing in April after a trip to Disneyland with his father. Then detectives say his father killed the boy. They believe the motive was an unfolding bad divorce, and Andressian Sr. was trying to get back at his wife. The LA County Sheriff's Department confirms a boy's body has now been found at a lake in Santa Barbara County, putting an end to months of searching. Alex Stone, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Canada is celebrating its 150th birthday with unprecedented security.
Hundreds of thousands of people are expected on Parliament Hill in Ottawa today for the traditional day-long concert and celebration. But to get onto the Hill, they'll have to go through extremely tight airport-style security. Police are patrolling with heavy weapons, and the roads are blocked by dump trucks filled with sand to block any vehicle attacks. Ottawa Police Chief Charles Bordelot.
People should have confidence in the plans that are put in place.
So far, people say they don't object, that the extra security is making them feel safer. Danielle Capelli, ABC News, Toronto.
If you check your credit report, you might get a surprise. New federal guidelines take legal judgments and some liens off credit reports starting today, and that might give you a few extra points. This is ABC News.
When you're hiring for a growing business, you don't need lots of candidates. You need the right candidates. You need Indeed.com. With an algorithm that positions your job post where quality candidates are and screener questions that help you zero in on the best talent. Indeed.com, the site proven through an independent study to deliver 5 times more hires than any other. New users claim your $50 credit for a sponsored job at Indeed.com/credit. Indeed, the world's #1 job site. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
Daria Albinger, ABC News.
From the KMET Weather Center for Beaumont on the Pass area, we'll kick off the holiday weekend with sunny skies at a high of 84, with the winds to 20 miles an hour. Tonight, going to be clear with a low of 64, with the winds to 25 miles an hour. Sunday looks to be sunny, our high 91 with winds to 20 miles an hour. We'll have a sunny Monday with a high of 93. For Redlands, we'll have patchy fog this morning. Otherwise, today looks sunny with a high of 91. With the desert cities, we'll have sunshine and a high of 107. I'm Rod Tanner for Smart Talk 1490 KMET.
The Banning Beaumont Cherry Valley Tea Party meets every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. for informal breakfast and discussion. And they meet each month on the second Thursday at 5 p.m., all at the Farms House Restaurant in Banning. Listen to interesting speakers, learn about our Constitution with our free classes, enjoy friendly discussions, and informal dining. Come join us. For more information, call Glenn Stoll, 951-316-3843.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
These cuts are blood money. People will die. Let's be very clear. Senate Republicans are paying for tax cuts for the wealthy with American lives.
People need kidneys, it's sad but decreed, yet the senator's hoarding one more than she needs. I offer this bill and I hope you'll vote aye, unless of course you just want people to die. Traffic deaths have many crying with fear. Over 30,000 people are dying each year. This modest change I propose must be applied, unless of course you just want people to die. Alcohol deaths are exceeding comparisons. Black people, white people, Native Americans. We need to ban alcohol. It can't be denied, unless of course you just want people to die. Murders are bad. They have no defenders, yet many are committed by repeat offenders. I say lifetime in prison, whatever the crime, unless of course you just want people to die. So I don't have a bill or a groan to detail. I just need a short clip from my donor email. Tim, there's blood on your hands. You want people to die. That good? Cool. Tim, dinner at 5? Yeah, the car deaths I mentioned are terrible stuff. Doesn't seem one seatbelt is ever enough. You must vote for my act so that fewer will cry, unless, of course, you just want people to die. The carbs, the container, we cannot ignore. Whipped cream's killing more people than ever before. This bill would be passed and be ratified if those people that didn't want people to die. Why not weigh all the costs, the effects, the results, empathize with each other as if we were adults, use our brains to craft arguments, not vilify, see that freedom's a trade-off.
You want people to die!
I tried.
And welcome. It's time for Constitution Radio here on KMET 1490 AM. It's great to have you on the show with me. It's always a pleasure to have the listeners here. And that's from a parody video that was put out, basically making fun of Elizabeth Warren's, people are going to die, from the Obamacare repeal. Which of course is false. And and I guess it's kind of that Rush Limbaugh thing, the best way to illustrate absurdity is with absurdity, and that's exactly what that was. Welcome to the program. I am Douglas V. Gibbs. I am your host. It's great to have you on the air with me. I was just in Corona earlier this morning. I was speaking to the Corona Tea Party. Got out of there rather than go to the studio. Decided I was going to do the show from my office. Not only because Dennis wasn't going to be able to make it to the studio anyway, but also I took a look at the GPS, and the traffic was worse going to Banning than going to my office here in Marietta. So I jump on the freeway, and as I'm going, I realize that the traffic on the 15 is so bad, it's going to put me at my office at 1:30. Well, thank goodness I know the back roads. That's all I've got to say. I got here 10 minutes before, logged into Skype. Skype decides it wants to do a update. It finishes its update like a couple minutes after 1. As always, I'm just skidding in by the skin of my chinny chin or whatever. Dennis, did you make it okay? You on the air with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Good to go.
And Alex, right?
Howdy, Roddy.
You guys, it's been an interesting week. We live in interesting times. I guess that's a Chinese curse, right? Maybe you live in interesting times. And so we've got a lot to talk about today. Dennis, you started to say something there before I went over to Alex. What'd you have for me?
I was just making sure you could hear me okay, Doug.
Yeah, and you're coming in great, as a matter of fact. Hopefully I am, too.
No, I was having a little side discussion with Mr. Simpson. I've met him several times. Really appreciate his view on things and the way he presents material, and I'm looking forward to our discussion today. So you may have heard me trying to do that.
Well, as a matter of fact, James Simpson was at my table at the American Freedom Alliance Heroes of Conscience dinner. Now, I am a fellow for the American Freedom Alliance, and I'm always happy to get out there when I can to be involved. I got a new book getting ready to come out, so hopefully we'll do a literary cafe on that book real soon. But anyway, so it wasn't the first time I'd met Mr. Simpson. Matter of fact, the time before I had met him originally was at another AFA event where we screened Enemies Within, Trevor Loudon's film, and Mr. Simpson is in that film. And with what's been going on, especially with the immigration refugee, what the courts just did, because we're definitely going to talk about the Supreme Court and the executive order. Now, if you're a regular listener to this program, you've heard me say this. I'm Mr. Constitution. I'm telling you right now, that executive order is completely constitutional. The courts are not acting in a constitutional manner. They're not even acting in a rule of law manner. They're acting in an ideological manner. In fact, there's nothing in the Constitution that allows the courts to strike down an executive order anyway. The executive order is the president's tool for delegating down the authorities regarding executing a law, or laws, plural. And in the executive order, President Trump listed all of the laws that the executive order, this extreme vetting executive order, if you're wondering which one I'm talking about, travel ban for those of you who listen to the leftist media, that the laws that it is executing are listed in the executive order. Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution gives Congress the authority to pass immigration laws. So the immigration laws that he is executing are in fact constitutional. So what's the problem? And there's all they're looking for whatever they can to stick a little screw in the way or a little monkey wrench or whatnot. And the lawyers are already at the airports today trying to see what they can do. And so I think the timing is perfect because we need to talk about the danger here. It's like I've explained to people, as the leftists say, well, gosh, Doug, you want to keep families out. Well, yeah, if you mean families, 20s and 30-something men, jihad age, right. It's just like the example about the bowl of M&Ms. You got a bowl of M&Ms, you got 3 poison M&Ms that will kill you in that bowl. Do you grab a handful and start eating them? Of course not, because the poison is in there. So until you can figure out a way to remove that poison and be 100% positive the poison's been removed, you're not going to eat any of those M&Ms. Jihadists are poison. Islamic radicals, poison, that's the terminology they use. Never mind the fact that I believe that all followers of Islam are capable of terrorism. That's beside the point. But the poison's in there. We know this. We've seen it in Europe. We know this because we identify them after they're here. So therefore, we know the poison is mixed into those populations. So for national security reasons and for national security common sense, you either ban entry into the country of this particular bowl of M&Ms, or you go through the extreme vetting where you try to find the poison M&Ms and remove them. And this is completely within the president's authorities as executive. The problem is we are up against an ideology, and I don't just mean the Muslim ideology, but also the leftist ideology, who's not interested in what's best for this country. This is all by design, and this is why I asked Mr. Simpson, and actually he asked me too, but this is why I'm glad he's on the program. He is the author of The Red-Green Axis, Refugees, Immigration, and the Agenda to Erase America. He's an investigative journalist, businessman, former economist, and budget examiner for the White House Office of Management and Budget. He's been writing articles for various websites out there and other media outlets, including but not limited to the Washington Times, World Net Daily, The Federalist, American Thinker, Accuracy of Media, Breitbart, Fox Nation, Right Side News. And heck, we ought to get you on politicalpistachio.com for that matter, Mr. Simpson. We do get about between 3,500 and 4,500 hits a day. It'd probably be a great way to also promote what you do. That said, he is also featured in Agenda, Grinding America Down, and as mentioned before, Trevor Loudon's Enemies Within movie, Enemies Within movie. Is it enemieswithinmovie.com? Is that right, Dennis?
That's the website. That's correct.
Okay. So thank you, James, Mr. Simpson, for calling into the program and being a part of the first half of this program at least. Thank you for calling in. And so you heard what I had to say. We got poison mixed into these populations. And I'm a firm believer the Democrats are not interested in dealing with that poison. They want that poison in this country. What do you think?
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me on. Thanks for having me. Great to be with you. Dennis, good to talk to you again.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Well, yeah, of course. The left uses this. Refugee resettlement, and especially a large population of Muslims, is the perfect strategy for the left, because their goal, and you have to look at it like a military strategy, because the left's goal is to take absolute power in this country. That's their goal. That's their end game. Their end game is to wipe out elections. Their end game is to, have elections like they had in Venezuela, one man, one vote, one time, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then they have their absolute majority, and they've been trying to do that in myriad ways with the tax code, by putting more and more people onto welfare, with immigration from third world nations. That was Teddy Kennedy's brainchild back in the 60s, and then with refugee resettlement in the 80s. And now we have Islamic refugee resettlement, which puts it all on steroids, because refugees that come here to this country use welfare at astronomical rates, multiples of what Americans and even other immigrants use it for. And they're very expensive. And when you add Islamists into the mix, you get a group whose ideology demands that they insist on their own parallel legal system, which is absolute insanity. To bring in a population of people who want to be able to make up their own rules, their own laws, and not have to obey the American Constitution.
Well, let me phrase that better. A group of people who want to overthrow the U.S. Constitution, want to overthrow the American government, and force Americans into their way of thinking. Ultimately.
But initially, they're trying to set up a parallel legal system. And that is a prescription for chaos. And it is also another method that the left, the Democrats and the left, are using to undermine the rule of law, to undermine the Constitution, because, as we know, that's another one of the strategies for illegal immigration. Let me ask you something here, and I know this makes way too much sense, and therefore the left will be completely confused by it. Does the left not understand that by allying with this is a potential enemy that they will have to battle in the future for control? Well, that's the big question, and a lot of people ask that question. For me, I answered that question a long time ago, and some people don't agree with me, but my view is that the left and and when I say the left, I mean the communist left. And that's we're talking Marxists. Yeah, and in today's political discussion, Marxism, socialism, communism, they don't use those words along with progressivism. Of course not. And they should be. Well, they should, and we should get used to being comfortable with those words, because that's what it is, really, at the bottom line. That's what we're up against, right. And it's not merely domestic communists. It is the international communist movement, which has never changed since the 1930s. We still deal with the Comintern, although it's not called that anymore. So this is an international movement with American leftists at the point of the spear. And well, the name of the book is The Red-Green Axis, which means we've got the communists and the Muslims working together, and there's a reason behind it. I've got to go to break. After the break, we want to get deeper into that. So, listeners, we're just getting started. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this break.
You got a dent in your door, a scratch in your fender, or a scratch in your door and a dent in your fender. If you need auto detailing, if you need fire shooting decals on the side of your car, if you need a rally stripe right down the middle of your hardtop, I don't care what it is. The Patriots at All-Star Collision are the place you want to go. They're the only place to go. 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Web address allstarci.com to see all that they do and what they're all about. Phone number 951-279-9161. All-Star Collision, the kings of wreck and roll.
Hi, this is Ed Hoffman, President Wholesale Capital Corporation, your direct mortgage lender. Real estate prices are still low, which means now's the time to buy your next home before they go up. Whether it's a home to live in, a vacation house, or an investment property, we can meet your mortgage financing needs to help you realize the next phase of your American dream. At Wholesale Capital Corporation, we make sure you get a loan that you can afford with terms that work for you. Wholesale Capital welcomes FHA buyers, conventional buyers, jumbo loan buyers, and we proudly help the U.S. military veterans take advantage of the zero down payment VA loan program. Nobody treats veterans better than Wholesale Capital Corporation. Seniors, if you're interested in creating an additional stream of income or just making your mortgage payment go away with a reverse mortgage, Wholesale Capital would love to help you. To speak with a loan officer who has your best interests in mind, call Wholesale Capital at 855-640-2020. That's area code 855-640-2020. Wholesale Capital Corporation, where we can close.
Help me fight the good fight. This radio program is funded by advertising dollars. So, if you are a business, add Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs to your business portfolio. If you are a listener, become a patron of the businesses advertising on this program. Without advertising, your weekend dose of truth ends. With more advertising, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs grows, and we will be on the way to win the battle to restore the Republic. To learn more, email us at constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com or visit douglasvgibbs.com. What's your constitutional IQ? Your quest to learn the Constitution can be fun for the whole family. Learn about the Constitution as you play the Constitution Quest board game. Learn more at constitutionquest.com.
And now, back to our program.
Oh, welcome back. Constitution Radio on KMET 1490 AM. I'm going to say my name and I am at the same time. That's not going to work out too well, is it, Sean? I am Douglas V. Gibbs, your host, and you can learn more about me at douglasvgibbs.com. Politicalpistachio.com is where I write daily. Facebook.com/DouglasVGibbs. Twitter.com/DouglasVGibbs. You can also check out the Constitution Study Facebook page if you haven't. Also, for those of you who are going to be at our event on July 15th, the Constitution Association dinner, excited to have you. If you have not purchased your tickets yet, it's not too late. You've got 1 week left. July 8th is the last day you can buy tickets for the Constitution Association Make America Constitutional Again dinner, our annual dinner, and Tim Donnelly will be our primary speaker. We have a gentleman from Orange County, XX, coming out to do a presentation on George Washington's farewell address. I'm going to have the gentleman who, if you're a radio listener, you have heard him, you can meet him, who is behind the Stop Top 2 push and movement to get us back to a closed primary where it's a little more reasonable for the voters and Republicans. Get your tickets. Go to constitutionassociation.com, constitutionassociation.com, and right there in the middle, little ways down near the top, it'll give you a link to go to the Eventbrite page. They're $40 a person right now, $40 per person. That includes your dinner and the speakers, and of course we're going to have an auction / opportunity drawing, all that jazz. We're looking forward to having you there. It's $40. You do get dinner. You'll have chicken or beef or vegetarian. You will indicate what you want at the door when you get there. So get there early so that you don't wind up getting one or the other, despite what you wanted. And we are also willing to sell a table. If you want to buy a table, $250. That comes out to $31.25 a person. What a deal. What a deal. All right. So on the air with us, we have James Simpson, investigative journalist, author of Red Green Axis, and but you're like me, Jim. You wear many hats, and I do appreciate the fact that you're active out there. You're doing this. I also noticed something, and a real quick side note. At Amazon, your book is really not a very expensive book. I mean, someone can get it for like $6.
Yeah.
Did you do that to make sure everybody could get it easily? They needed the information. I have a feeling that's the case.
Well, I think that's actually the choice of the folks, the publisher. I didn't have much to do with that, frankly.
Oh, okay.
But, and you can get it for
very affordable book.
Yeah, it's an affordable book. It's a quick read. It's about 70 pages, and available on Kindle also, and it's been within the top 20 in its category in Kindle for the last 2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
But, you know,
now we were talking before the break about communism and Islam, and I'm wanting to know because we know they're working together, and I asked the question about doesn't the left understand Islam wants to dominate even them? And so we've got this red-green axis. They think they're allies. They're not really allies, but yet they are because they're both totalitarian. They have the same enemies. They hate Christians. They hate Jews. They hate anybody that's right to center and believes in liberty. So they have a lot in common, but yet there's so many things about them that shouldn't get along. This axis, it's a hard idea that they would work together. It's really hard to wrap your mind around.
Well, let me explain that, because I think I have the answer. The left, the communists, specifically the Soviet Union, has been financing, training, arming, and guiding the Islamist movement since the 50s.
Okay.
The KGB created the Palestinian Liberation Organization. The KGB armed and trained practically every terrorist group in the Middle East, going back to just post-war period. When their favorite supporter, Mr. Hitler, lost World War II, the Soviets stepped right in and took his place. And so the one thing you have to understand about the Soviet Union and Russia, which is really no different today, is that they don't just do things for free. If they're going to support you, if they're going to fund you, they're going to train you, they're going to provide intelligence, they're going to provide you with weapons. They're getting something in return. Now, a lot of what they've gotten, which is what they wanted, is just chaos. Okay? They got chaos in the Middle East. They've gotten a constant war against our one true, well, not our true, but our staunchest ally in the Middle East, which of course is Israel. And
keeping Israel and the United States and the West off balance is ultimately what they're doing, right?
Exactly. So you have to put it in that context, and then realize that the left in this country, it's all part of that. It is not an equal partnership. It is a partnership that has always had the left in the primary position. And if you examine CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, the things that they do, they parrot the left. They parrot the left. And then if you look at countries like, for example, Iran, Khomeini, the chief mullah, not to be confused with Khomeini, Khomeini, was schooled at Moscow University.
Yeah, matter of fact, all the leaders in the Middle East of these countries weren't they? I mean, that's what I've read anyway.
Have been schooled at Moscow University, and they have learned the Soviet method, and they have taken up the cause. And what we're really looking at is a false flag operation where the Islamists are operating as cutouts against the West. Because, see, when the Soviet Union fell, which it didn't really do, the Soviet Union didn't really fall. It pretended to fall. But in making it look real, they had to look as though they had become benign and no longer our enemy. But in order to continue to prosecute the war on the West that never ended, they needed a proxy army. And the Islamists were the perfect cutouts for that. And that's what we're really looking at here. And
so
that's
the left
how
is
it is.
using Islam to create the chaos and get a foot in
Well,
the door. The Islam's using the left to get their foot in the door. They
no.
both believe they're going to be in full control at the end.
Yeah, no. The left is in charge. And the Islamists, I would go further and suggest to you that the Islamists at the top of the food chain aren't really even Islamists. They're communists. For example, if you look at ISIS is the reformulated Iraqi resistance with some foreign fighters thrown in. And the Iraqi resistance that we fought in Operation Iraqi Freedom, they were Baathists. They're communists. They're not Muslims. And what they were able to do, just as they did in Afghanistan, although those really genuinely were Muslims, is inspire jihadis in the Middle East to come and join their cause, thinking that they were carrying the banner of Islam. So you have the rank and file who are Islamists, and they believe that they're fighting for Allah, with those at the top who are letting them think that and using them to prosecute this war.
So we have deception behind deception, fueled by deception.
Yeah, and that's the way the Soviet Union does things. I mean, when they fell in 1991, it was what you call a deny your enemy an enemy strategy. And it was not a new strategy. It was something they had planned for decades, and they had to get all their ducks in a row because, as Sun Tzu says, to appear weak, you have to be very strong.
There you go. All right, Dennis,
that's my answer. And I can back it up with lots of facts, although a lot of people disagree with me because a lot of people want to think that we won the Cold War.
I fully understand what you're saying, and you know, the communism has been trying to infiltrate the United States long before communism even existed in its current form. The founding fathers called it utopianism. It's nothing new. And as for Islam, you know, when we became a country, the first thing Islam did was declare war on us. So, you know, this stuff's nothing new. Now, Dennis, you've had a chance to talk to Mr. Simpson before. You've been involved with Trevor Loudon's Enemies Within, so you understand a lot of this quite well. What are your thoughts on what Mr. Simpson said, and then do you have a question or comment for Mr. Simpson?
Well, I've sat through Jim's full presentation, which is really quite compelling when he goes through all the data and the people that are moving from out of the Middle East into other countries, and what you're seeing playing out in Europe now. I mean, he was foretelling that, you know, a year and a half ago, you know, when I first got acquainted with him. As a matter of fact, I came up to him after his presentation and I said, geez, I'm involved in a movie, Trevor Loudon's Enemies Within. We ought to be talking to you. And he laughed. He says, I've known Trevor since 2008, and they've already filmed me, and I'm already in. So I just kind of chuckled. But his insight is correct. And the trick to me, as I've mentioned a lot of times, is how do we get this into the mainstream media? How do we get the more typical average American who loves the flag and loves the liberty to come out from underneath the ether and really understand what these forces are, and that they're really trying to steal, you know, the country from us and our children and grandchildren. I just would be open to whatever Jim might have to say as to how effective he thinks. Are we doing any better now than we were a year ago, now that we have a different administration? Or what would be his recommendation to try and get this more out to the people, because he's in the middle of that war right now?
Well, there's a lot of interference on your line. I have a hard time hearing you, but I did get that question. And I think we are in better shape this year than we were last year, because we've elected somebody who at least has begun to take steps to actually reverse some of this stuff. Nobody has done that before. And now we've gone way close to the edge with a lot of the stuff Obama did, but it's heartening to see President Trump reversing those climate agreement. That was huge because there was just trillions of dollars behind that, and that's what everybody was really drooling about. They could care less about global warming, but they were all absolutely drooling at the prospect of getting America to shell out billions and billions of dollars to their green energy companies so they could all become filthy rich. And while nothing that they none of the goals would be met by the climate treaty. So there's nothing more.
It's not even possible. I mean,
no, that's right.
Models are messed up. But anyway, go ahead.
Right. It's nothing more than an effort to squeeze the U.S. taxpayer for billions of dollars. And again, while they're getting rich, they're also sucking us dry and creating more chaos, more financial hardship, putting more burdens on American society, and that's just another front in the war, frankly. And so we have a long way to go, and there's a lot of uncertainty about whether we will be able to reverse this because we are so far along, and the left has really come out of the woodwork to show just how deranged and dangerous it is. But I really have to give him a lot of kudos for the things he's done, and for the things he's trying to do, and I think in recent weeks he's shown that he's finally getting his sea legs. We're finally starting to see some good people replacing the bad folks in the government, although that's going to take a long time. It's been way too slow, and we've had no help from Congress, or very little help from Congress there. And Congress needs to come around to fully support the Trump agenda rather than being a Bush League pinch hitter for the Democrats, which is kind of what they're doing in a lot of ways now, at least some of them anyway. And to your other point about the media, I believe, is the biggest enemy, because the media has been misleading America for decades, and that effort at misleading America has gone on steroids since Trump was elected. And, to his credit, Trump has challenged them and called them out on it, and it's great to see CNN in chaos. Nobody deserves it more than they do, although ABC, NBC, and CBS are just as bad.
Well, we got to go to break again, but I did want to bring up something that actually, with what you just said, one of the things I was going to talk about today was Trump's brilliant tweet about Mika, sorry. It was absolutely brilliant. And at first I didn't see it that way. I was like, hey, I'm glad he tweets. I'm glad he bypasses the media, but, maybe he should think about some of these things he said. And then Buzz Patterson kind of straightened me out and says, no, think about it. The media is spending all their time talking about the tweets while the travel ban has gone into effect, Kate's law is being, passed and taken care of, and stuff is being done with Obamacare under the radar, but they're not even noticing because they're too busy with blood squirting out of their eyes over this tweet. It was the perfect distraction. When we come back, we'll talk more to James Simpson about the red-green axis, and we have after the top of the hour, the big stories of the week. And, of course, the Commie Hunter is going to have a chance to talk to Mr. Simpson as well. All that and more when we return.
The true patriots of All-Star Collision have been proudly serving the Inland Empire for over 20 years. Built on honesty, integrity, quality, and old-fashioned customer service, we offer lifetime warranties for our work, and every vehicle serviced by All-Star Collision is washed, detailed, the headlights polished, Fluids are checked and topped off, safety checked, and returned in showroom condition. We offer free estimates, are approved by major insurance companies, and accept all claims for all cars and trucks. We use computerized frame straightening to factory specifications, offer fiberglass body repair and paint, free local pickup and delivery, and after-hours towing. Mention this radio program at drop-off and receive $100 off or a free rental car for up to 5 days during your repair. Visit us at allstarci.com or at 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Call us at 951-279-9161. We are the kings of wreck and roll.
The Banning Beaumont Cherry Valley Tea Party meets every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. for informal breakfast and discussion. And they meet each month on the second Thursday at 5 p.m., all at the Farms House Restaurant in Banning. Listen to interesting speakers, learn about our Constitution with our free classes, enjoy friendly discussions, and informal dining. Come join us. For more information, call Glenn Stoll, 951-316-3843.
Hi, this is Ed Hoffman, President, Wholesale Capital Corporation, your direct mortgage lender. Real estate prices are still low, which means now's the time to buy your next home before they go up. Whether it's a home to live in, a vacation house, or an investment property, we can meet your mortgage financing needs to help you realize the next phase of your American dream. At Wholesale Capital Corporation, we make sure you get a loan that you can afford with terms that work for you. Wholesale Capital welcomes FHA buyers, conventional buyers, jumbo loan buyers, and we proudly help the U.S. military veterans take advantage of the zero down payment VA loan program. Nobody treats veterans better than Wholesale Capital Corporation. Seniors, if you're interested in creating an additional stream of income or just making your mortgage payment go away with a reverse mortgage, Wholesale Capital would love to help you. To speak with a loan officer who has your best interests in mind, call Wholesale Capital at 855-640-2020. That's area code 855-640-2020. Wholesale Capital Corporation, where we can close.
And now, back to our program.
Welcome back. Constitution Radio here on KMET 1490 AM. I am Douglas V. Gibbs, your host. For those of you who have been helping fund the program with donations, appreciate it. If you would like to help out, douglasvgibbs.com. On the right-hand side of the link bar, it says donate. Hit that, and it does help. In fact, our second hour is currently listener-funded, so there will be no commercials during the second hour. Also, don't forget, the Constitution Association annual dinner is coming up. Make America Constitutional again. July 15th from 5 to 8 in Wildomar, California. Tickets are available, $40. Includes a meal and an evening, 3 hours of speakers and entertainment and so on and so forth. I would love to see you there. Go to constitutionassociation.com. This is your last week to get tickets. Ticket sales end in 1 week from today. constitutionassociation.com, and then right there in the middle of the screen, a little bit above center, you hit the link, go to the Eventbrite page so you can purchase your tickets. $40 for an individual, $250 for a table. That's $31.25 per person. What a deal. All right. We have on the air with us James Simpson. We've been talking about the red-green axis, and what we mean is Islam and the communists. And he said something very fascinating, Alex. He said that he believes a lot of the higher-ups in Islam are not really Muslim. That's part of the deception. And these guys are actually communists. Does that make sense to you?
My research tells me that these people, over the years, over the decades, have been routinely taken into Russia and trained in Marxist revolution. So by the time you get done with them, yeah, they may be Muslim, but their heart is communist.
Yep, there you go. And the thing is, you have to understand that these people at the top, I define communism in a very special way. Communism is not a ideology. It is not an economic system. Communism is a body of strategies for seizing and holding power. That's what communism is. The ideology is window dressing that gets the true believers all worked up. But the true believers are what Lenin called useful idiots. And the only people who benefit are the people at the very top, and they are nothing more than highly organized thugs whose goal is to become impossibly wealthy and powerful and have all of the amenities that go with that. And every single communist country features that.
And that goes back to the alliance now, because in the end, they both really want the same thing.
Yeah, well, they do. They want money and power, but the Islamists have always been in the employ of the communists, whatever their ideology may be. And I don't think any of them hold any type of illusion about who would win if it came down to a battle between the two.
Now, that said, this sounds like this something goes back quite a ways. The average person doesn't think that Islam really was a problem until just recently.
Well,
you know,
that's
9/11.
why.
And maybe some people might even say the Iran's Islamic Revolution in '79. But this is something that goes back a lot longer, a lot deeper. Am I correct?
Yes, well, Islam does, of course. And, of course, we had the Barbary pirates, and we've always had problems with...
yeah, but I'm talking about that axis that you're talking about where the communists and the Muslims are really working together. How far back does that go?
It goes post-war, post-World War II, yeah. And probably actually before that, but in a big way post-World War II.
Gotcha. All right, so Alex, we're talking communism here. You're the commie hunter here on the program. You've done a lot of extensive research on Marxism, communism, the attempt to infiltrate the United States. You know, when Khrushchev said, "We will bury you," he didn't mean the Soviet Union. He meant communism from within.
Well, the Soviets set up a system of universities, primarily the University of the East, otherwise known as Patrice Lumumba University. And they brought, I've got a quote from Ho Chi Minh talking about the hundreds of third world malcontents that they brought in and educated to the point where there was I should have saved it. You know, I've got so much paperwork. It's kind of silly to say I should have saved something, but this particular article in the LA Times talked about villages that were set up in Russia that were exact copies of villages in the various target states. And they had personnel there, teachers and instructors who spoke the language. And they would take young kids that they had kidnapped out of those countries, and they would raise them in this Pho village so that when it was time for somebody to step into the premiership or whatever, they were ready.
It was already a common environment for them.
Yeah.
Wow.
This has been going on for a long time, and you find it periodically in their writings. When you talk about the Black September and all these different red organizations in Europe during the 70s and 80s, they were trained in Russia, and we know that, and they were employed in East Germany. So they would work 5 days a week in East Germany, and then on the weekend they'd go out and bomb some discotheque.
All right, so James, I heard you kind of agreeing and all that.
Yep.
Sound familiar?
Well, those are some very interesting details that he's talked about. I'd love to see that LA Times article. That's fascinating stuff. And none of it surprises me because that's the way they are. They're very meticulous, and they're very good at subversion. So much so that it's beyond our ken. And in fact, if you talk to somebody from one of the agencies, the CIA, they just dismiss. Oh, well, overblown. That's 50s McCarthyite Cold War crap. That's nothing for real. And they don't know what they don't know. But I was not hampered by any bias when I first started studying this issue 30 years ago, and I came to these conclusions by research and finding the facts on my own, and just putting it together with logic. That's the way they do things, and the example I love to give about the notion that the Islamists and the left are going to have a fight, and the left doesn't know what's coming. Here's my example. And Alex might remember this. In 1982, when the Civil War was going on in Lebanon, we were getting people kidnapped daily, and we had our CIA station chief, Buckley.
He was tortured to death.
He was kidnapped and horribly tortured and murdered, and then we had Colonel Higgins kidnapped, horribly tortured and murdered, and we had dozens and dozens of Americans being taken off the street every day and being returned for, to fund these various rebel groups. And then one of them made the mistake one time of kidnapping a Russian diplomat. And the next day, that person and his co-conspirator were dumped out of a limousine in front of the rebel group's headquarters with their male parts removed. And a CIA operative friend of mine told me, I wrote about that, back in the early aughts. And when he read it, the CIA operative friend of mine told me, well, you only got it partially right. They did that treatment to every male member of the extended families of those two kidnappers. So they knew where...
That makes the mafia sound tame.
Yes, very. And they knew... But the point is, they knew who the people were. They knew who the rebel group was. They knew where it was. And there was never a question that that diplomat was returned instantly. And this is the kind of thing that, for example, the Iranian mullahs know that stands to happen to them should they decide to get out of line, if they were ever contemplating getting out of line. But I don't think they are, because I think they're all in on the game, and they all know that they're going to get a piece of whatever pie they figure they're going to get when the West collapses. And so everybody's on board, but it's the communist strategy, and I use that word in a very specific way. The communists have specific strategies on how to seize and keep power and make themselves fabulously wealthy at the expense of everybody else. All you have to do is become absolutely bloodthirsty and completely without any moral compass whatever. That's what you have to give up.
We've got a couple minutes before we go to the top of the hour break, and we'll need to let you go. So in this last couple minutes, I really want you to have the chance to plug everything you want to plug. What do you do? How do people get a hold of you? Why is it important to get your book? The elevator pitch, all of that. You got about 2 minutes to just really lay it out there and tell my listeners why they need to be following James Simpson online.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. The book is The Red-Green Axis, Refugees, Immigration, and the Agenda to Erase America. You can get it at Amazon, either in Kindle or in paperback format. My website is crisisnow.net, and unfortunately I don't publish very much stuff there because nobody pays me to do that. So, but it does have links to all of my my archives of articles on many of the other sites that I do publish at, Daily Caller, American Thinker, Breitbart, Capital Research Center. There's a new one called Bomb Throwers, which is a project of the Capital Research Center, Matthew Vadum's group. That's a very, very up-and-coming website, and I publish on there on a regular basis. The Center for Security Policy is one of the best places to go for national security information. The Center for Security Policy published my book, and they have that book and bunches of others in what they call the Jihad Reader Series, and you can actually download any of those books with a free PDF. I'm sort of destroying my own marketing plan by telling you that, but you can do it. And
and I thought I saw you over there at Canada Free Press as well.
Canada Free Press also. Yeah, there's dozens of websites that off and on will publish my stuff or republish my stuff. So yeah.
Well, I've been writing for Canada Free Press since 2009. So, I kind of came across a few of your articles just recently. But so now that said, what's the best way they can get a hold of you if they have questions, or are you on Facebook? Let them all know.
Well, I kind of careful about my Facebook. I don't let people on that. I'm careful about who I let on Facebook.
Right.
But yeah, I'm on Facebook. They can friend me, and I'll check them out. It's James Simpson on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, James M. Simpson on Twitter, and please follow me on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, and that said, we're out of time on the top of the hour. We'll see you on the second hour. Thanks, James, for spending the time with us.
Thanks for having me.
The proceeding was a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Serving the Inland Empire and desert communities, this is KMET, Manning, Beaumont, Redlands, and Palm Springs, 1490 AM.